So we have a lot of advantages. Now, we've reached a current level. We are one of the most successful countries in addressing absolute poverty. But this doesn't mean that the gap between the wealthy and the poor have not, increased, and that's a serious issue. So where do we want to be? Now, what does the new economic model represent? Three key objectives. We need to make it very simple so that everybody understands this. We want to be high income, we want to be inclusive, that means society is equitable, and we want to be sustainable. This is not a short-term growth, but long-term growth. So if we want to be an advanced country by 2020, what are the key characteristics? It clearly has to be market-led, well-governed, regionally integrated, entrepreneurial, and innovative. So what would it mean for the rakyat? It should mean better benefits, better jobs, attractive homes, high mobility, better health care, access to better quality education, advancement based on merit, better Malaysia, environmentally, good safety net for the vulnerable. Now, in particular, this doesn't mean that we ignore the poor, the disadvantaged, and the bottom 40% of the population. We will continue to push for a better social safety net, better education, better surroundings, and better distribution. But to do this, we need to do things very differently. Now, as accountants, we know, increasingly the world has shifted from everything about hardware to more and more about software. Right? It's easy to talk about hardware, but it's much tougher when you're in the new knowledge economy. So we have to do things very differently. Previously, we were talking about capital accumulation. Now we're talking about productivity. Previously, we were central strategic planning. Now greater autonomy. Previously, we were G3 oriented. Now we're oriented towards the Asia and Middle East, where the income growth is. Previously, we talked about state-led accumulation. Now we're talking about private sector-led. And remember, we did this once before. We did this in the mid-80s when we had the first oil crisis. And it was very successful. It led us back to recovery, growth. We need to have equity of outcomes and preferential access, move from this to equality of opportunity, draw the best out of all Malaysians, right? But ensuring that those who are disadvantaged will be given support. We need, we previously were restricted on foreign skilled workers to protect locals. Now we need to enhance the networks of professionals. And that's what accountants are all about. We need to pick sectors for growth. That's what we used to do. Now we leverage on the inherent capability of firms. To sum up, given the fact that we now have to make choices, there's a phrase that we've used. In the past, we have been the best of the rest. That means with the pack, how do we break out of that middle income trap? We need to make the best of what we have. In a previously rich oil environment, we could pour a lot of money down many choices. Today, the revenue resources are dwindling. We will become a net energy importer by 2015. We have to make some really tough choices. So we need to go through advanced K-based activities. And all this is about the knowledge economy. It needs to change into mature legislation, excellent institutions, diverse market, stable macroeconomic environment. So how do we get there? Now that's crucial, right? How do we get there? How do we get there is that we need enabling action, a big push to transform. We have 6 major strategic initiatives: improve function of labor market, increase private sector profile, re-engineer public institutions, improve national talent base, transform structure, reform fiscal framework. And that's the high aim, high income, inclusiveness, and sustainability. But this one hasn't shown. We will continuously have a feedback, review, and revise. And that's all about execution. It's not just one Malaysia, people first, performance now. Performance now means we need to continually review where we've succeeded, where we've failed, how do we revise, how do we move forward. So the enablers would require us to break the logjam of vested interest, prepare the racket for change, coherent big push to push growth. And these initiatives are we're pushing, and these are the areas that we need to consider, right? Now we will leverage on what we have. What we have is we've selected sectors, for example, financial services, oil and gas, palm oil, electronics, tourism, agriculture. All these are our strengths. We're looking at each one of them, we're drilling down into the areas we think make a lot of sense, and the government will be a facilitator and enabler to push this area. So the characteristics of Malaysia in 2020, we will move on these, and these are the aspects that we will look at. Now, what are the strategic initiatives? These strategic reform initiatives are crucial. As you know, we're already moving on the institutional reforms. Datuk Idris Jala and Tan Sri Ko Sukun is already pushing in that area on the government delivery systems and reform. We are looking very carefully at improve the functioning of the labour market. We're looking at how to improve the national talent base. We need to transform the economic structure, reform the fiscal, and improve the private sector structure. As the Prime Minister has said, there are basically 4 pillars to this. There is the One Malaysia, there is a government transformation program, there is the budget and the 10th and 11th Malaysian plan rollout, and this is where we're going to build the next building block, the economic transformation program. One is related to government, the other is related to the private sector. We need to change both. It's useless for the private sector to just complain, well, the government has to change. If the government is changing, what is the private sector doing about changing? Those are issues that it's mutually reinforcing, okay? And that's crucial here.